What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fanatically Speaking. I'm Kent, the co-host and promoter.
I'm Logoff, the Logoff legend, the hater of social media. I'm the co-host and producer of the show.
And we have another episode breaking down the Sean Combs Diddy documentary on Netflix. Episode 3.
The Reckoning.
Yes, go ahead.
Yep, episode 3 called Unofficial Girl. I'm sorry, Official Girl. Excuse me. Yeah, my dyslexia kicked it. Yeah, Official Girl. And this one was weird, like just watching it from the jump. Do you remember how the episode started?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it gave a glimpse into him again with the women.
Yeah.
And like Kim Porter. Then they showed like the kind of a preview, like I guess, or foreshadowing, right? That video of him and Cassie.
Yes. Yeah.
They
They did a good job of that. But the main thing was the opening scene for it was him riding around in that car, and he FaceTime, and all it says that he was on the phone with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I don't think it specified who she was or what her name was. It didn't really give her a profile. And then he said something about how he was like transferring $200,000 into the account or something like that.
Yes.
Was it 200,000 or 200 million? I think it was 200,000.
It was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, but it was just weird. Like all he did was fall back on the money. Yeah, I'm gonna transfer this large amount of money.
Yeah.
And she's like celebrating, and it's like all on FaceTime. But FaceTime calls like that are weird. And for you to do that, being the person that you are in the position that you're in, where you've got pending criminal charges, and you don't know if you're gonna go to jail or not, and like that's your outlet is to celebrate, moving some money around. I don't know. It was bizarre to me.
Yeah, it kind of like I said, it jumped into that. It jumped into his, bad boy taking off. Like you said, now he's this, like you said, transferring money, and he's this larger than life persona, right?
Yeah.
Trying to be like his mentor, and it's all about him. And then they cut also with the Sean John clothing line, and they pay him millions, right? 60. What did he say? He's like $60 million check.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, man. Like a huge amount, and then went into all the Ciroc stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like they covered a lot, and I mean, and that's just where all of this kind of hits. It kind of runs into a wall for me, because you saw, especially throughout like the first 10th of episode 3, where people, even with all the charges and allegations people still love that dude, man. Like he didn't get, or at least throughout the documentary, it didn't show like massive amounts of disrespect from the public. Like people were happily taking selfies and, IG, oh yeah, I'm sitting over here with Diddy, he's smiling and, throwing up signs and stuff. Like it was just weird to kind of see it, and knowing all that stuff was already out and it didn't affect the people on the street. Fame and money will do that, but damn, it was a hard watch.
No, it's a broader picture for me. Like it's not just Diddy. Like watching stuff like that, and I'll get into it later with all these episodes, these last 2. But it's celebrities in general, right?
Yeah.
You kind of know they're wrong, but you're still drawn to them. Like the normal everyday person doesn't care, because they're looking at this individual. Again, they're a celebrity, and they're like, yeah, well, he's this, though, and he made this song, and he did this. He made this movie. He can never do that. So you don't even, put it in your brain that they could be a bad person, and they could do bad things.
Yeah, well, and not only that, like, you, I mean, by the time that footage was captured, the video of him beating and kicking and dragging Cassie through a hotel hallway was already released. You know what he's capable of. Like you saw it. Like that shit was out there. He'd already issued a public apology. So I hear you, and you're right. Celebrity is strong, especially in American culture. It's weird where people are just so drawn to the fame and I'll use power in quotes that people have. But to know that all that information is out there, the proof is there, you can see it, but yet you still fanboy when you see this person walking up and down the street. Yeah, that's just not something, I don't know. I would never see myself doing that. I've never been big on celebrities like that anyway. And Diddy's a massive one. But I mean, the comfort that people had with him just made me uneasy.
Yeah, I was going to save this take for later, but I'm going to go ahead and hit y'all with it.
Rip it. Go, rip it.
So, even like in sports, right? If you're good enough, you'll get another chance, right? If you're a good enough player, good enough coach, you can do wrong. You're going to get another chance. And people are going to look past you, right? The more talent you have, the less, people look, right? They'll say, but, and the same in this instant. Diddy was a star at this point, right? By the time, like you said, when they're videoing his documentary or doing the videography, we know about Cassie. We know about the charges. We know about the entire history of Diddy. And like you said, people are still taking pictures with him because he has this history of hits and fame and stardom. If you're just a regular, like you've made one good song or you've done a little bit of work, you're going to be looked at differently, right? You might not get that same love. And it's the same in sports and any celebrity, right? You don't want to think that, I'm going to start dropping names here. You don't want to think that Bill Cosby did wrong. And then, Michael Jackson made Thriller and R. Kelly did these songs. These are names in the music and now, acting, but you don't want to think about it because you're like, yeah, but they did this. So the better actor, the better athlete, the better musician, singer, rapper, whatever, it's going to make you, the regular, again, everyday people are going to give you a little bit of slack, right? They're going to cut you some slack and not look at you as bad because they can't put, the two and two together.
And that's fair. Listen, Puff, Diddy. So I have Sirius, like XM satellite radio, and they have this channel or the station called Hip Hop Chronicles, and it's like a circulation of like what they call kind of the top 500 hip hop records in history.
Yeah.
It's wide ranging. There's a lot of more recent stuff in there that's actually pretty strong and holds up, but a lot of it is historical hip hop tracks. And the influences and the wide reaching arm of Bad Boy Records blows my mind. And it's because there's so much that I forgot about where I'm like, oh shit, that was Bad Boy. Damn, Mace was on that remix. Like it's so much of it. And for you to say, about like Diddy being, such a celebrity, he's also made. Like, it's funny, like we sit back and you think about somebody like a Andre Harrell or a Russell Simmons. It's arguable that Diddy's bigger than both of them. Like historically bigger than both of them. Like when it comes to, just record labels as a whole, like Bad Boy, they can hold their own against anybody.
Yeah.
And the catalog is spanning over decades. So it's not just, and I hate to kind of throw these examples out there, but you were talking about like making a comparison to athletes who drop the ball, so to speak, have a huge slip up. So I'm just going to throw three names out there. When you said it earlier, three names came to my mind: Ray Rice, Michael Vick, Kobe Bryant. Three names that came to mind to me. Now, Ray Rice, aging running back. The video was telling of him knocking his wife out in an elevator, dragging her body out. That is a different level than the stuff with Michael Vick, which was, dogfighting allegations and, horrible torturer of animals and all that. Went to prison, came out, and still had it athletically to where he got a shot. And then, of course, Kobe with rape allegations. And obviously, I don't even think he'd fully reached his full potential at that point. We saw what happened, and he came back, and he was able to win championships after that, and it's almost like it's all forgotten. So, three examples, two of them similar, Ray Rice different, but you're right. If we can benefit from it, we'll give you another chance. but the Bad Boy catalogs are already existing. Like they're already there. Like they're monumental. Like you can put them up on Mount Rushmore. So I get it. It's, I don't know, man. It's just it was hard for me to kind of interpret it in a certain way. I was trying to be objective, but after like all the allegations and all the women and all the people coming forward, all the people he'd screwed over, it was hard for me to look at it and say, all right, I'm gonna try to make a case to see where maybe Diddy didn't do any of these things. It's just hard to come by.
Yeah, and I think though, if most people with a level mind, level head, if they watch the documentary, and we talked about it, is coming from a certain direction from 50 Cent, but these people are real people who knew Diddy, who worked for Diddy. There's also audio, there's also email, there's text messages. So once you watch the doc, I think people will have a different mindset. I don't know if they'll stop listening to Bad Boy music, but hey, we'll see. Speaking of their music, I wanted to point out that, they cut into, Diddy with the Come With Me song that he did with Jimmy Page. It was a huge hit. Mark Curry talked about basically writing the song, writing the rap.
Yes.
And teaching Diddy, or Puff at the time, how to actually rap. And, he kind of makes fun of Diddy, which they do throughout this a couple times in the documentary. In a few of the episodes, they kind of clown, again, his rapping ability. But as I point out, I think he was more of an entertainer, producer figure more than a rapper. I don't think anybody's going to sit here and say, yeah, Puff Daddy Diddy is one of the greatest rappers ever. But yeah, so again, you talk about music and the music he made. I mean, Come With Me, the collaboration with Jimmy Page was huge for the Godzilla soundtrack. And then, of course, like I said, Mark Curry was one of those people who were in Bad Boy, had some spots, and then faded. And that gets into, of course, the theme that we're going to get into. That's one of the themes I get from every episode, right? And I told you that. Like, when you think of Bad Boy, there's only a few artists, groups that had multiple albums and had longevity. Most of it was, boom, let me use you for your skill, and then you're out. And then go on to the next one. Diddy, Puffy, he's on to the next one. One of those artists as well, Shine.
Yes, yeah, and that obviously, it touched on that too, where, there was the, the shooting, at the nightclub, and I'm glad you brought up the Sean thing, because obviously we'll get to the shooting, and what took place and then its aftermath.
Yeah.
But before watching this documentary, a lot of this stuff was out of sight, out of mind. Mm-hmm. The violence that surrounded Diddy, it's unconscionable that he just happens to be the person that's in the places where all these things keep happening. Yes. Like it, and he's never the focal point. Yep. Like he always skates. He always finds a way out. There's that, and then there was the and in that same episode, there was the incident that allegedly took place at the recording studio, but then it's reported that it took place outside of the recording studio. And but to backtrack to the Sean thing, there were witnesses that said that it was Diddy.
Yeah.
Like they pointed it and said, no, it was you. You did this. Yeah. Like you shot me in the face. And somehow it still falls on Sean. And he does a decade in prison. It's just it's strange. Sean was another one where talented artist, unique voice, unique sound. He had a career path in front of him. One night out with Diddy, and it ruins all of it. It takes all of it out. And, now, and I don't know if you've looked in to see what Shine's into now, but, he's been released from prison. Yeah. And, he's got his own, thing going on now. Yeah. But, it's interesting that these things constantly, from from the charity basketball game to the Tupac shooting to the Biggie shoot, like just all these things that just have these hints of bad boy on them, and it's like massive amounts of violence, if not death, that seems to take place. It's just it's bizarre, man.
Well, again, that's the other theme, right? To me, that's the other theme that keeps happening, and it'll continue, and we'll talk about these other issues and events that happen. And in this one, like you said, Natanya Rubens was the girl in the club that got shot in the face. She said she saw Puff with the gun. Sean had a gun too. I think allegedly they both shot, but he was dating J-Lo. J-Lo was at the club with him that night. Apparently there was a guy, the story is, of course, there was a guy from the neighborhood. They had beef. So, of course, Puffy, they go at it. Shots fired at Club New York. Diddy was facing 15 years. Now, here's the difference, though, right? Oh, yeah, and the stolen gun found in the SUV of Puff and J-Lo.
Stolen gun, yes.
Allegedly, Puff also offered cash and a diamond ring to the driver to take the fall for the gun. So, like you said, you hit on the other issue, right? So, what they say, 8 months earlier, he already had a felony charge where, or maybe this was a different one, right?
Totally different.
This was a different one, yeah. So, I'm going to get back to the Sean one. So, yeah, he had 8 months earlier, he and two guards beat up Steve Stout with a phone, champagne bottle, and chair over the Hate Me Now video where Diddy was on a cross and Hezekiah Walker told him it's blasphemous. He can't do this. So Diddy wanted the image removed. They wouldn't do it. So he just goes, beats the hell out of them. And they settle and they drop the charges. So he got off there. The big difference here, though, is this is where, again, you talk about Diddy treating his artists, treating his right-hand men, people in Bad Boy, not paying them, or, like I said, we talked about him messing with the Biggie contract and the feud, all this stuff. So here we go again, right? Sean, like you said, he goes to prison for 10 years.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Puff had Johnny Cochran. Again, Johnny Cochran.
He sure did.
Johnny Cochran get the devil off some charges. So, Puff didn't give Sean, one of his artists who was there with him in the club, that same lawyer. Sean had to get his own legal team. Bad Boy wouldn't even, give him the good lawyers. Sean was complaining, talking about the lawyers, they weren't trying to help him. It seemed like they were trying to spin it where Sean would take the fall. Now, Sean I believe he admitted to having a gun or possibly shoot right. So, yeah, it just seemed like Sean's like, wait a minute. Like, it seems like they're trying to get me to take the fall. And ultimately, that's what happened. Puff came out clean. He kept on getting, making music, getting artists. But, yeah, that's the big difference there was a little kind of dirty. Diddy gets off. He gets Cochran. Sean doesn't get that same help, man. Diddy just left him high and dry.
Yeah, and that's the theme of this is that there's a trail of disgruntled artists. There's a trail of violence, gunshots, literal death in this guy's wake. And still, there's a line wrapped around the building of people who were willing to overlook all of that just to get a shot. And there's so many other opportunities, for people, especially nowadays, 2025. There's plenty of opportunities for you to kind of go out and spread your wings without having, the backing of a record label as big as Bad Boy. Yeah. But it was just, but even back then, there were other opportunities, and I don't know. They've always made it seem like throughout the documentary that Diddy was a really good manipulator and just leading you on just long enough. But the level of selfishness is unlike anything I've seen displayed that way. Because, and I said that as a disclaimer, when we recorded our first episode, that, with the documentary, you could paint anyone to look any way that you want them to look. And while that is true, Diddy didn't do himself any favors.
No.
He didn't do himself any favors when it came to, being, someone who has empathy, who can understand the position that someone's in. And by the way, in people that it would take little to no effort for him to help them in the situations in which him and his record label has massively benefited from. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. It changes the way I wanted to make sure I got through the documentary first, and obviously we'll do an episode for episode 4 too. But after going through all of it, man, it's just hard to see him listen to anything that he does, listen to him speak, and just say, you know what, I want to support that guy. I want to support that artist, knowing what was in his wake.
No, and again, you mentioned that theme. You mentioned him doing people wrong, and yet still able to find talent, right? So Mark Curry mentions, he kind of cut to him, and he talks about even at this point, early 2000s, everyone around Puff, they go to jail, almost die, etc. Like you said, bad things happen to everybody around him.
Except for him.
Except for
Diddy.
Puff and J-Lo split over this whole incident. Of course, she don't want that on her image. She's a rising, movie star doing her music and stuff. So then one of his guys, Tim Dog Anderson, he leaves due to the chaos, thinking that he could be the next one involved in something bad. So he leaves Diddy. Diddy's, Puff Daddy, he's losing talent in Bad Boy, Mace, Faith Evans, 112, Total, The Locks. So he's got to find a new way to find talent. They go into how he hooks up this deal with MTV and making the band. So now he's got a new way, a new show. Reality TV is kind of big at the time. So, very smart business decision by him. And he does, making the band, which of course launched, the band, Diddy Kane, Day 26. And again, like you said,
Day 26. Yeah.
So here you go, new talent, young, up and coming, aspiring artists,
hungry artists.
And Diddy's, he's like, they're ready to do whatever.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the making the band phase, especially as it was covered in the documentary, we'll get to some of the darker sides of it. But the other thing, and this is just really quick, is that I lived through that era. I lived through the first making the band, and then I lived through the Diddy Kane Day 26 portion. At no point throughout either making the band seasons, any of them, and any of the artists, did you ever think that the show was really about the artist? It was all about Diddy, and I'm saying that, I'm not saying that like in hindsight.
Right.
Like as this was going on, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a Bad Boy take that production. Right. This is about promotion of the record label. This is about promotion of Puff. I recognized that then, so much so obviously we see what happened to all of those bands. They all seem to crash and burn.
One and done.
I mean, like that's how it went. And honestly, I think it was just kind of by design. Now, it raised Diddy's profile. Yeah. It made him bigger. It had him on television. I think they actually said it. I think it was one of the members from Day 26 said it in the documentary. They were the highest rated all black show on MTV at the time, like with a majority black cast. Yeah. That's massive. Yeah. This is in the early 2000s. Like this was 2005, 2006. This is large. But it was all about Diddy. It wasn't really about the artist. So much so I don't even think you could name anybody else. Could you name an artist from Day 26? Could you name any of them? Because I can't.
I'll be honest. I think I missed that part.
There you go.
I think I missed. No, I'm a little older than you. Definitely the band Diddy Kane. I was a part of that. Day 26. I'm like, I think I completely missed that, and I couldn't name.
Totally missed out.
I couldn't name one song from them guys.
Me neither. No, I can't name this. I can't name a song. I can't name a song, and I can't name and I couldn't name like any of the individual artists. Yeah. But it's like, from from the first making, like the band, I remember Ness, Choppa, Babs, Dylon. Dylon. Like I could do Sarah. Yeah. Like I could do that all. And then what's the dude? Fred was the other guy. Right. All of those come to mind, but for everybody else, it was like, nah. This is more about Bad Boy than it is about the artist. And then of course, you brought that up. I think kind of the the darker shift of that episode was where they went into some of the allegations that were made by some of the Danity Kane artists, and and there were other allegations too. That the members from Dirty Money, but it was a dark episode. I had to kick my daughter out of the room. I didn't want her to have to sit there and watch that.
Yeah.
And I think I told you, I was like, I don't like the way this is turned in. Let me go ahead and kick her out.
Yeah.
But did anything kind of stick out to you?
So a couple things even before they got into the Danny Kane and Aubrey was like Babs talking about the contract for them. Like you said, they were hungry for stardom, and she was like, there's this big, huge stack of papers that was the contract that nobody would ever read, and they gave them 24 hours to sign it to be, to again be in Bad Boy and on the label. And her lawyer told her they're not offering you fame and fortune. They're offering you fame, not fortune.
True. And by the way,
Like,
I want to give. I love Babs. I've always loved her as a personality. Yeah. Like she, out of anybody from that era, man, she always seemed so cool to me. I'm gonna give her props for actually making sure that she had to have an attorney take a look at it separate. And it's like, by the way, here's this big ass contract. You got 24 hours, and she promptly gave it to the attorney who was able to go over it and give her the game.
Maybe,
maybe.
Maybe it was a big stack.
But I mean, those firms. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you know this, but like those firms, when you have something like that, they literally just take chunks of it and then divvy it up amongst several paralegals and say, break this down. But but like you said, she saw it in front of her. She's like, look, this is my opportunity. Like, she's from Brooklyn, where Biggie's from. Biggie's an inspiration. If you watch Making the Band, she could recite Juicy word for word, like. Yeah. So she was a fan. She had made it that far and won the competition to the point where she had a record contract in front of her. She knew she wasn't going to make a fortune, but it would give her a name, and she would be signed to Bad Boy, and she chose to sign that contract. So I can't knock her for it, but I do give her props for making sure an attorney once over it.
For sure. Nobody that, is trying to make it to be famous would turn it down, right? Again, even though Diddy, been through all the stuff you've been through, I mean, you still are going to sign with Bad Boy because Bad Boy was still rolling. And, at this time, I'll give a little, this is where you say, well, this was kind of, I don't know if it's a good and a bad thing, but like you saw early episode of Diddy, running as an intern to get stuff and bring it back so quickly. His work ethic was top notch, right? So, he was pushing, the band, like making them walk from Manhattan to Brooklyn for cheesecake.
Yeah. Well,
and if it's not right, then he sent it back.
It's and he was like, make sure it don't have no this on it. You make sure it don't have no.
Yeah.
And I think it's admirable in some ways because it's like he was like, that's what I was willing to do. Let me see if you guys are willing to do it. And people are like, man, I lived here my whole life and ain't never walked from Manhattan to Brooklyn.
Nah.
But also it was also a television program, and it made for fantastic TV.
Exactly. And if you don't already know, reality television maybe was actually reality television one season, and then after that it's scripted.
Yes. Yeah.
So out of all this though, again, we're gonna get into before we get into Aubrey and Danity Kane and all this, explicit stuff, really dark stuff. The Making the Band they talk about again. Obviously, Puffy's already blown up. He's got Bad Boy. He's got still doing his music. Got his Sean John blowing up, Cologne, like you said, everything he's got. They said it gave him pop credibility, Making the Band did. And again, that's a whole nother audience outside of the hip hop and the rap, right? And it almost, I put this like, it's almost like he had they said, and I think maybe they said this, like he had this God complex. So he is now, again, jumping even, he's risen even higher. Like you said, throughout all the bad stuff, he still comes back on top and just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then it gets into, again, Aubrey of Danity Kane sharing an email that Puff sent to her. this led in, again, he had a God complex, and he got bigger and bigger, rising, to bigger, more power, more fame, all this. So this was when he began, as they say, kind of grooming Aubrey, telling her she's the pretty one, she's this, she's that. And then, of course, she reads an email that Puff had sent to her that was pretty explicit.
The saddest part was the pictures in which they painted Aubrey, where you saw her as this young girl, like, dancing and singing and just wanted to be a star. And then, she tells the story about how she wasn't even looking to do it. And, her family came to her and was like, hey, we think this will be a great opportunity for you. And then it ends, like this, because they saw her potential and they saw that and she's incredibly talented. And unfortunately, she just got snatched up, by, that bad boy bug. And, it was sad, to see, sad to read, to look at her, just kind of looking at it. And it's, I don't know what would come of this. I don't know what's going to come of it. I know they said throughout the documentary, man, they made it a point to say that he's got something like 77 pending lawsuits.
Yeah, they kept flashing that. Basically it's telling the whole story, but then it would show that obviously he was on trial. This is what he's accused of. This is what he's guilty of. Here's what's pending. Yeah, 77 civil cases still pending.
Yes, yeah, still pending, and of course Diddy's just like, oh, it's another one, and I never did any of this to her. You were there the whole time, and just kind of paint this story. But I mean, and I know this is it's in the song, dude. He literally wrote a song, "More Money, More Problems." When you're that rich, lawsuits are just kind of part of the game. But there's plenty of people who are filthy rich who don't have these types of accusations that are scattered over 30 years. I don't know. I hate to say where there's smoke, there's fire, but it definitely appears like something's burning.
Yeah, and again, like you said, there's a lot of alleged things, a lot of alleged stories, incidents that happened. This email is, again, not alleged. This was an email that he sent to her. And I'm not going to get into super details. I'm just going to say he basically said he wanted to have sex with her. Yeah. And at this time, he is her boss. He is over Bad Boy. She is an artist on the label. And he is saying, this is what I want to do. This is how I do women. This was like, kind of not word for word, but yeah, you get the gist of the email. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the email is proof. The video with Cassie is proof. These are things that can say, yeah, this proof would make me believe the alleged things that are also said. But what got me, and I don't know if you caught this on the email, but as explicit as the email was, he signs it, God bless Puff, God is the greatest. Yeah. And it threw me off, and I'm laughing because it's almost a joke that you would send someone that email. Yeah. And that's how you sign it. And then it gets me back to that God complex. And in his mind, because later you'll see something else where he compares himself. Is he talking about God?
Or is he talking about himself?
Or is he talking about himself? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I caught that too.
You know what I mean? Right? So, and this was a sad thing because, and again, this is something else you'll find a theme was, again, she says she turned him down or she never acted on anything. And then she was fired 6 months later because he said she was a problem. Her energy was bad for the group. But then we also learned that, again, he was on to the next thing already. Yes. Because on the side, he was working with Don Richard and Kalina Harper on Diddy Dirty Money.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing where, this is he's almost like a succubus for talented starving artists, where he can always have the next one line up, where he can take all their talents, use them to his benefit, and then the second he's annoyed with them, the second they start to, give him a little pushback, the second where he feels like maybe they're trying to outshine him, the second that they give him any resistance, he just gets rid of them. And
Yes.
I think probably the more interesting thing is when you look at how probably the last 15 years of his career is predominantly centered around women. It's not a ton of dudes. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's strategic, or maybe it's just an evolution in his control and his power, or influence. But it's definitely something that I didn't miss. Like it was something that was evident to me, where I could see it, where it's like, okay, Danity Kane and, Dirty Money and Cassie. It's like, you're attached at the hip to these female artists. I don't know. It was very interesting stuff.
Yeah, and you just mentioned again, being outshined. So again, Dirty Money involved him.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So another way to get him back in the limelight. And then of course it rolls into, it gets in a little bit of Dirty Money. They talk about, relationship, like he had a special relationship with Donna Shard. Even though Kalina Harper, will find out, maybe was closer to Puff than, Dawn. But then comes Cassie.
Yes. Yeah.
To Bad Boy in 2006 at age 19. And at the time, another theme here we'll get into, she was dating Ryan Leslie, a producer who Puff had worked with before. They, of course, saw Cassie, heard Cassie, and they talk about that she was recording within 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And, of course, Diddy, as he always does, he makes his move. He claims somebody else's girl. He pushes in on him, and, I don't know, to have somebody that possessive over women. I mean, I've never been that kind of guy. I've seen guys like that. Just I've experienced in life, nothing to that level of extreme. But it's almost like his goal was to go after someone else's girl. It's just, I don't know, man.
It's a part of that power, right?
Yeah, but it's like but he already has the power. Like the sad thing is, no matter what, he'll never reach a maximum power. What you gonna have all the women do? You want every woman on the planet? You want to take a wife from every husband? Like that's what you want?
Wife, side chick. He literally taking everybody. Yeah. Like I said, they're recording, and they said Ryan Leslie was there at recordings, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. And then Cassie had a 10-album deal, which is unheard of.
A 10 album deal, and then there's the Kim Porter.
He was still
the Kim Porter evolution, where she sees it. She sees what's going on. She sees him spending a lot of time with Cassie, and it's like, you know what, this relationship is over. Like this is a wrap. I'm out.
But he had both of them.
At a stretch, right? Yeah, he had him at a stretch, and she
had a stretch where Cassie was in front of people, and then sometimes they were together. I mean, he literally had his cake and eating it too. Like he had his wife and girlfriend. And like you said, she finally said, "No, this is, I'm out."
Yeah. She had enough, and ultimately he got what he wanted, and I'm not gonna try to say this as a. I don't want to say this to be insulting. I don't want to say this to be degrading in any way. I forgot how beautiful Cassie was. Like I always knew she was attractive. But I don't think it had anything to do with her youth. She was a natural beauty, and for someone to be attracted to her, fine. I mean, it's obvious. I get it. But she was also incredibly talented. And even with that, I still don't think with her beauty and her talent, she never actually hit a top level. It was as if she was intentionally held back.
Well, there's a reason. Again, back to that theme. Again, another artist who had, a hit, an album, and then it's just like she became his girl, right? Like I said, he was paying for everything for Cassie. She didn't have to pay for anything. So again, call it what you want, grooming or dating or whatever the case may be. But here's a young, aspiring talent where he's obviously offering her the world. And then it goes dark again. Then we get into the gigolo. And they start, having her call him. He comes. They do their thing. And it was mainly, at the orders of Puff, apparently, according to him. Puff was, they said, face covered. And he was called Frank Black. That was his alias. As we, go back to Hypnotize. And not a lot of detail, but, it was mainly Diddy's in the corner. Gigolo Cassie doing their thing. Lots of baby oil. Recording long sessions. And Gigolo, said, what was his name? Clayton Howard. Paid $6,000. He would come every 2 to 3 weeks for them for 8 years. There are a lot of graphic details that I'm not going to just go into because I don't think it's necessary, but a lot of graphic, explicit, again, details that they would have him do and Cassie.
Yeah, and the evolution of that where it's it's secret and discreet at first, and then then Diddy starts to get more involved, little by little, issuing commands, being in full control. As you keep mentioning the God complex, I didn't tell you could do that. No, you don't do, you do what I tell you to do, and then of course kind of the end result is him full-fledged involved, in these exploits with Cassie, and this sex worker, according to his allegations. So, ongoing for years. It
flying him from New York to New York to LA,
flying him across the country
to Miami, which is why Diddy's in trouble a little bit. And then they mentioned this struck me too was they always called him on March 9th.
The day that Biggie died.
Yes, and he said that they would party 3 to 4 days, with obviously escapades with Cassie for 3 to 4 days.
Yeah,
and again, ecstasy was involved, so a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, a lot of sex, and it just kind of struck me though that he would party on the anniversary of Biggie's death.
Well, and I'll tell you this, man. When I was a young man, I attended a lot. I attended a lot more funerals as a younger person than I did as I age. Clearly, that'll change at some point. But I remembered once it was during a funeral. I remember my aunt stood up once at a funeral and said, never shame someone at how they choose to grieve. Everyone grieves differently. Some people, try to remember the good times and laugh and smile. And some people are just crying their eyeballs out. So, I try to be a little cautious when it comes to that. Everybody kind of deals with their pain in a certain way. And if that was how he was choosing to do it, if he wasn't hurting anybody, I couldn't have any issues with it. And, from how it was described, I don't think he was doing anything other than paying a sex worker. He wasn't really doing anything, illegal. However, the one thing that kind of stood out to me in all of that, and it may have been really benign, is a really small subject, when he mentioned how whenever a Tupac song came on that he made him skip it.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. During their escapades, yeah, they would have music and
Apparently
tell
they
them,
had
turn that
apparently
off.
they had music to set the scene or mixtapes or something. It's like, but if a Tupac track came on, apparently Diddy was like, nah, you got to skip that. We ain't gonna listen to that.
That was funny.
Mm-hmm.
That was telling as well. They mentioned Diddy, the Puff didn't drink or do drugs until about early '96, where he cut his wrist. So he started taking Percocet. They talked about him going on 14-day work binges with cocaine.
Yeah.
The Gigolo Howard said they had baby oil laced with drugs. So.
Yeah, which is by the way, which is an allegation that both Diddy and Cassie denied.
They did.
Yeah, they both. But even still, like it makes a lot of sense because throughout episodes 3 and 4, the allegations are repeated that it's like if you were in the room with them consuming anything, you were on whatever they were on.
You were drugged.
Yes. Everybody had some of that in their system.
They didn't. Maybe he thought it was. I don't know. There was so much baby oil. Who knows? And again, they get in again talking about these sessions, these escapades lasting, 3 to 4 days, and the Gigolo, talking about Howard was talking about again, giving a little, track, inside track about the Cassie stuff. We saw the video. Now we see the violence. Right? He said, forcing her to do it. They would argue. She would run. They'd have to go get her, and Puff would get violent. Witnessing her, Puff, punching her, Cassie, in the chest, kicking her. You brought up the jealousy. All this stuff, was going down, and again, we are taking the word of a, as you said, sex worker, gigolo.
Yeah, so. Gigolo, and he, I mean, he seemed to do it kind of, unapologetically. Other than the things that he witnessed, he was just like, look, man, like somebody was going to pay him to do that. They were paying him lots of money to do it consistently over years. I'm not going to say it looked like he enjoys that kind of work, but clearly it wasn't going to stop him from doing it. And,
no.
He alleged some things that he witnessed, some of the violence, some of the, the threats. And that's just, I don't know, maybe that's just part of the business, part of the industry of being a sex worker. He was willing to live with it at that time, and then obviously, the time just kind of ran out. It just kind of ran its course, I guess.
Yeah, I got thoughts on that. I mean, even though he is what he is a sex worker, gigolo. At some point, man, you got to be a man. I don't care how much they're paying you. If you're seeing a female get beat, I don't know that, I don't know how you stand and watch that and keep doing it. But again, I that's just kind of my thoughts on it. They kind of cut to a few things to the recent before his arrest. Puff, his security, Roger Bonds, talking about that Puff had, he was going back to the streets because the world had turned their back on him due to the allegations. So he was trying to get back out in the streets, even though we always know Puff acted like he was from the streets. And, again, he is a music producer. He is in Bad Boy and all this stuff. So they kind of hit on that a little bit. They obviously notice, Puff only cared about himself. And, of course, they notice how he treated others, including Cassie.
Yeah.
And this is where we get cut to the full video that most have seen, again, of, Diddy assaulting Cassie, in the hall at the elevator, dragging her by her hair or hood, kicking her multiple times while she was down. And then we get into the charges of, Cassie filing the rape charges. We get Joe Dickerson Neal. She comes forward from the 91 incident where she said Puff had, drugged and raped her and showed the video to people. Dawn Richard files assault charges. Dozens at this point lawsuits filed. It gets up to, like we talked about, 77 pending. 100 civil cases total were filed. His L.A., Miami homes are raided. The rundown is, again, he's serving 50, right now. He ended up serving 50 months. They get into that. Again, it's not a spoiler. It is a spoiler, but yeah, he's serving. I just got a real wrap up, unless you want to hit on that real quick.
No, go. You can wrap.
So all these charges came out, and then, of course, we got this, again, more recent video before the arrest from the videographer. And to me, he looks like a broken man. As most of us, we kind of get out of shape as we get older. But it looked like, you see like medicine bottles on his nightstand. Again, he's on the phone. He's trying to do everything he can, obviously, to get him off these charges and help him with these allegations that are coming out. Looks like he's not got sleep. Again, he just sometimes gazing out the window. Obviously, he goes out to the streets, and like you said, he's still taking pictures with people, and maybe that's to make him feel good that he still can do that. And again, all these people coming forward, all these allegations, it's, these former employees, former artists, a gigolo, take their word for what it is, right? They either got fired or kicked out of Bad Boy. But it's kind of, again, it's a theme, it's a trend of these artists or these employees who was like, yeah, they either owes me money, he used me, he did this, or I saw this, I heard this. But I really took out of those recent videos that just, he looked like a broken man. I don't know if, you saw the same thing.
Yeah, he looked like I believe the term now is self-medicating. He looked like someone who was taking things and doing things that was so opposite for what we've always kind of seen from him. And I know, like you mentioned, there was, you could tell like damn, like he put on some weight during this time. And it's like, the stress would do that, and he looked more broke. But I mean, you can have, I don't know what it's like to have those types of allegations pending towards you, to feel like you've got people, whether you deserve it or not, people coming after you. And it seemed like, and I don't know if you caught this part either. I didn't see when everything kind of came to a head and they're, kind of showing that footage, of him, days before he's eventually arrested.
Yeah.
Don't remember him reaching out to anyone of a celebrity status. Like, I didn't see him reaching out to any of his peers. He knows a lot of powerful people, man. He knows a lot of people with a lot of influence. And the people that he were calling to vouch for him were people that he had already taken advantage of and had stripped down and have some sort of disdain toward him. And those were the people that were left on his list to call to try to help him out of a jam. It was, it really, that part really stood out to me. It's like, you don't have not one celebrity you can call, man.
Look, I think in the next episode, we're going to get into. I got a take on that.
Yeah,
but I got thoughts on that as well, though. I can still get into it without naming what goes on in the next episode. But I thought about that.
Yeah.
I thought about, in general, celebrities speaking out.
Yeah.
On his behalf, like, you don't hear anybody. And again, you forget how time flies. Like, the last time, one, he had a hit. One, he was really in the limelight. And it hits on that later. But yeah, I noticed the same thing. It was, where's all his celebrities? Now, again, they kept showing videos of him on Ellen. Well, she didn't do herself any favors on her show, so
that's true too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, wait. Ellen would be a horrible ally to have, because
yeah,
Ellen might. For all we know, Ellen might be the white lesbian Diddy.
Yeah, exactly. She, the allegations of how she treated her employees
Yeah.
on her show. And that's a whole flip-flop of the image she gave us. And we're not going to go into her. But again, that's what I thought about. I was like, man, the only video, they got her, like Diddy being nice with Ellen. And I'm like, ooh, that's not going to help her any. And, it's the same image that we get. And we get this again, like we talk about celebrities. They give you an image. That's what you see. But you don't know behind the scenes, behind closed doors, what people are doing. And when it comes to light, it's not always great. But yeah, you would think that somebody, especially in the hip hop world, would have his back. But again, that theme of using people and, taking their talent and then, prospering off of it and then moving on to the next one, I think it come back to bite him. And you're talking about him being stressed, and we said, he would be stressed with all these charges, allegations. But dude has faced other charges before.
Yes.
So it's crazy to think that this was what got him stressed.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't as confident now as he was back, even with the Tupac, the Biggie, like I said, the club incident, the other assault charge, everything that has happened to even to this point. Now again, 100 cases will do that to you probably. And there were some serious charges, I think but again, still, he's faced charges before. He's faced these things before. But as I mentioned too, he is famous, but not as in the music industry. Like I said, he doesn't have a hit lately. So it's not like Bad Boy is booming right now. So it's not, it's a little bit different because his days have passed him. He has aged. It's not the same.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I mean, yeah, and maybe, his name just doesn't carry the weight. You said it, like it's been a while since he's had a hit, and maybe he's burned some bridges. And he's toxic at this moment. So, a lot of that stuff just kind of makes sense. It all kind of ties together. And, but no, all of that kind of leads into, the ending of the documentary. And like you say, yeah, we can touch on that in episode 4.
Yes. So that's episode 3 for the Diddy doc. And let's see here. Yeah. So that's another episode of Fanatically Speaking. I am Kent, the co-host and promoter.
I am Logoff, the Logoff legend, the hater of social media, the co-host and producer of the show. Thanks again. So that was episode 3 of Sean Combs, The Reckoning. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do an episode 4. And just kind of go ahead and close it out. It's grown on me a little bit just as a watching experience. So I hope you guys had a chance to kind of watch it too and just kind of listen to our perspectives on it. Again, this was our era, man. We lived through this, from beginning to end. And, we know this quite well. A lot of things that we forgot and a lot of things that we had to kind of help, the documentary helped us connect the dots on. But it's definitely something that we wanted to take some time to cover. Follow us, like, share, rate, review, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and we're all over any podcast platform where you get podcasts. So make sure to share it with all your friends and loved ones.
That's it.
Yep, that's it, man.
It's a wrap.
That's all I got.